Hey guys, it's time to get lit. Please leave a kind comment reminding me to delete my channel if I ever say that again. So I've seen posts all over Twitter recently about how Rich Chigga has changed his name to Brian. I'm not sure if it's changed to just Brian or Rich Brian because all the songs say Rich Brian now, but apparently he's been wanting to change it for a long time, and he said that he actually made a mistake in calling himself Rich Chigga. But was this name actually offensive to people? Well, I'll be giving my thoughts on it as well as looking at what some other people thought about it. So, this is CDTVProductions, and is Rich Chigga's name offensive? Let's talk about it.
With a chigga like me, when I pull up in the Maserati, better duck for your brain spider on the concrete. I'ma hit you with that force.
Obviously, the main thing we have to talk about is the reference to the N-word in his name. He basically took the word and changed the start of it to make the word Chigga, which essentially means Chinese N-word, if you will. Hell, he actually even said the N-word in his biggest song, That Stick.
Trail every minute roadway when you niggas no fair when I hit him.
And obviously, as you can imagine, some people were quite upset about this. Not only was his name a play on a derogatory word aimed at black people, he was also referring to himself as Chinese, when he's actually Indonesian. So some people even found this as disrespectful towards Asians and their culture. Now let's just get my thoughts on it out of the way before we look at other people's reactions to his name. So personally, do I think this was an offensive name? In all honesty, I don't. At all. I think it is very clear that Brian had no racist intent behind calling himself this, and it was literally just a name to garner some controversy and help him get his name out there, which it did do. It served its purpose. His justification for using the word is that he likes to think the way that Tyler the Creator does about the M-word. And keep in mind, Tyler the Creator was one of the artists that Brian listened to when he was still kind of learning English, so it's very possible that he just kind of took Tyler's views on the M-word on as his own. And Tyler's view of it is that anyone should use it because it gives the word no power. Now, whether that's Chigga's place to do so with the word or not, I still think his intentions are kind of in the right place. But then again, I'm not sure how seriously certain people will take my opinions in this situation, because if you look very closely, you can actually see that I'm white. Shocking, I know. And I get why people would say that, like, it's not a play on a derogatory term aimed at my race, so maybe I don't fully understand the people that are offended by it, but at the end of the day, I'm just personally not offended by it, and I know a lot of black people that have told me that they're not offended by it either. But let's get a bit of a wider scope in this argument, and let's look at what other people have had to say about this.
I don't smoke no gas, I don't pop no zest. Hella cake, I just eat that ass, don't worry about no mess. Look at me.
So now, to get an example of what some online publications think, we're gonna look at this lovely article from the website Uprocks titled "Rich Chigga changed his name, but the damage is done and the joke's on us." And let's just say, this article very much finds his name to be offensive, so let me just pull out some quotes to give you a general idea of what this article is saying. They say, and I quote, "It's demeaning because it demeans both Asian people, reducing them to simply Chinese despite their actual nationality, and black people for reasons that should be painfully obvious now." Now that part, it's their opinion, and I get that, but the next part is the bit that confuses me. They then go on to see, his name implies there is a way to act black, which is associated with ignorance, crime involvement, etc., and that Asian people ought to be above such behavior. So, what I took from that part is that this article thinks that Brian's old name was stating that he thinks Asian people are above so-called black behavior. I'm sorry, but I just don't see that at all if that's what they are trying to say. Like, he wasn't trying to say him or his race is better than another race. That's not what his name is saying at all. It's just a play on a controversial word that is commonly used within the rap genre. They then go on to say, let's be clear here. Brian changed his name because the Rich Chigga name served its purpose. It pissed off enough people to get them talking, and now he's blown up without the long hard slog of doing so through hard work. And this is where the article loses all credibility for me. This is where it starts to come off more kind of as a shot, a direct shot towards Brian. And for lack of a better word, the writer of the article seems quite bitter when they say that. They essentially just said he chose this name to blow up because he doesn't have the talent to do so otherwise, which is just a pretty ridiculous statement. People wouldn't listen if they didn't like his music, so he clearly does have some sort of talent. It's not like people are only listening because of the controversial name. They also say he chose the name just to piss people off. That is somewhat true. Brian said he was just trying to come up with a name that would cause the most controversy, but I don't think he was maliciously trying to annoy people. The article is right in that the name is somewhat of an attention grab, but to say that Brian is talentless because of it is not true. Now, I'm not 100% sure about this part, but it is even possible to say that potentially Brian just didn't fully understand the implications of the N-word in a culture that he doesn't live in. Like, he learned English through watching YouTube videos and listening to hip-hop, where the word that his name is a play off of is very commonly used, so it's understandable to see why he may not fully understand the impact or the ramifications of calling himself Chigga. This article claims he is making fun of hip-hop from the inside, and I just don't see that. Hell, this article seems to have more malicious intent against Brian than Brian did with choosing his name. They close it off by saying, "Instead of debating his name, we should have been ignoring him all along. The joke, it seems, is on us." Nice little punch to end that article on. I think that makes it very clear that whilst the author of this article is perfectly entitled to have their opinion, the main purpose of this article was to try and make Rich Chigga look bad.
I be riding right down Melrose with a Vicky name, bro. Sitting on my lap, but she just trying to be my friend.
So after seeing this article, I thought the best thing to do would be to see what the public reaction to his name was. So I decided to run a little poll on my Twitter saying, were you offended by Rich Chigga's name? If so, why? If not, why not? Now, this isn't exactly a huge sample size. I only have around 1.5k followers on Twitter, so if you guys want to go help increase that, you can follow me under the handle at CDTVProductions. Maybe I'll do more polls on there in the future, and maybe you can have your username included in a future video. So yeah, it's not a huge sample size, but everyone that follows me on that Twitter account obviously enjoys hip-hop music, so it is targeted at a demographic. It is targeted at people that like hip-hop music, and the results were pretty conclusive. Out of the 329 votes at the time of scripting this, 91% said they weren't offended, whereas 9% were. That means around 29 of those 329 voters were offended, and a couple of them just accidentally clicked the yes answer. And I'm pretty sure a few voted for the offended option ironically. As to why most people aren't offended, they had this to say: no, not at all. It's just a name, and if people get offended by a name, they probably get offended by everything on the internet. And the next one says, I don't think the use of the N-word is right at all, but I think it was funny because he made a spin-off of it since he's Asian. And finally, it didn't offend me because he was just doing his thing. Plus, when someone that bold comes out of nowhere and makes a name for himself like that, that's some G shit dead ass. So I think we can say that most people in the rap community aren't really that bothered at all by his name. Regardless of what their race is, people just aren't that bothered by it. So to conclude, I just want to say, I honestly think we have much better things to do with our time than get offended over a name. Yes, it may have been a somewhat dumb decision, and it may haunt Brian in the future, but at the end of the day, his name doesn't hurt anyone unless they choose to be hurt by it. However, no matter what we think, Brian has eventually decided to change his name. So regardless of whether I think it is offensive or not, and personally I don't, I respect his decision to change it, and I think we have to respect that. He wanted to change it, and he has done so. Who knows, maybe even with this new name, it will be possible for him to move further on from that internet meme status that he really kind of established himself in with the release of his first few songs. But what do you guys think? Because as you know, all these videos can always kick off a fun discussion, and I'm really interested to see what you guys think in this one. As this video will be seen by more people than my Twitter poll, it'll be a larger demographic, a larger sample size to get opinions from, and I want to see how many people were genuinely offended by his name, or how many people think he was wrong to call himself that. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Please subscribe if you did enjoy this one. I'll have more videos coming out soon, more discussion videos. And yeah, I am trying to hit 250,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So if you could click that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. Obviously, only do that if you enjoy my content though. And I'll hopefully see you guys all in the next one. And this is CDTV Productions, signing out.